what helps you determine that the Quran is true is that all the other ones are not true.
Yeah, so the process of elimination helps with that, but the actual, like I said, the context of the Quran versus, for example, other holy scriptures is superior.
I'm still not sure how that shows that Islam is true, though. Okay, so I'm bringing up...
Yo,
how do I say your name?
it's Saifullah.
Saifullah. Okay. Yeah, and thanks for coming in, man. And I saw you yesterday in chat. You came in like right at the end, and I had to go. So thanks for coming back, man. I appreciate it. So I feel like you're pretty eager to come up and be a guest. So I'm like, well, let's bring you up.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
I'm a Muslim, and I know you ask people about their beliefs, and I just wanted to know if you got anything concerning Islam.
Okay. So I've talked to some Muslims here from time to time. I do get mostly Christians, and I think it's just based on where I'm located, and based on where I'm located and the folks who come into the lives, where they're located. So I think that has a lot to do with it. But okay. And so thanks for telling me that. Now, Saif, before we get into it, let me just explain what I'm doing. You may know what I'm doing, but I'll say it just for the rest of the chat too, just so that everybody knows real quick. So I'm practicing my hobby, street epistemology, and it's where I find out what people believe, which in your case, Muslim. Then I would like to find out why you believe it, and then how did you determine that is true? Like, what methodology did you use to determine its truthfulness? And I do that with a series of questions, but it's not an interrogation. It's more like an interview. And then here and there, some of the questions may gently challenge you on your beliefs. And really the exercise is to spark reflection and to just really put your beliefs and reasons on the table and just really explore them together. Because that's really interesting to me. Yeah, and that's it. And then at the end, you can ask me any questions you want, and maybe in between too. But I really want to keep the focus on you. And the only thing I will decline to answer is what I believe, as far as the religion and God and all that, because I want to remain neutral.
All right.
So, but if you really want to know, you can follow me and we can DM, and you can ask me DM, and I'll happily tell you. All right. Sound good?
Okay.
Okay. Very good. All right. So, okay, Muslim. And how long have you been a Muslim?
My whole life.
Your whole life? Okay.
Yeah. But recently, within the past 4 years, I've been studying. That includes Christian, Judaism. I've talked with a couple Hindus. And I'm still a Muslim. Alhamdulillah.
Okay. So you did, so you've been one your whole life, but in the last 4 years, you've been studying other religions. Is that right? So Christianity, Judaism, and Hinduism. And that has not persuaded you to switch.
Yeah.
That sound about right? Okay. And how confident are you today that Allah is the true God? On a scale of 0 to 100. So 100 being, I am absolutely confident. I don't need any other information. Allah is a true God. Or 0, I have all doubts, no confidence. Where would you say you fall on that scale?
Around like 200, 210.
210%. Okay. So way beyond. Okay. And that is very strong confidence. Okay. Wow. And what would you say is your best, like your strongest reason for your 210% confidence?
Yeah, I think it's the Quran. It's the processes of which the Quran is preserved, and also the context of the Quran. The contents of the Quran. Excuse me. So, for example, in one verse it talks about the Pharaoh, and it says, "Neither the skies or the heavens weep for you." Right. And then we deciphered the hieroglyphs, and we found that there was a poem, and one of the poems talking about the death of the Pharaoh, and it talks about the skies and heavens weep for you. No, the skies and the earth, excuse me, weep for you. and also just the morals within Islam. You have an illiterate prophet that comes and uh, uh, comes up with a system of charity called
Mm-hmm.
zakat, and virtually eliminates homelessness and being poor. And that's already been historically proven with the Islamic Golden Age,
Mm-hmm.
and also what Islam's contributed to the world, right? When it
Mm-hmm.
united all of the Arabian tribes, then a lot of mathematicians, right, like Ibn
Mm-hmm.
Sina and people that created the quadratic formula, and all of these great scholars came up because they didn't have to fight anymore, right?
Mm. Okay. Okay. So let me summarize what I heard.
Mhm.
So it sounds like you brought out like three reasons. First is the Quran, and inside of that reason is the prophecies and the contents of the
Correct.
Quran, right? And then the second is the morals or the morality contained within the Quran. And then the third one is the contributions of Islam, for example, uniting all the tribes,
Uh-huh.
and then the scholars that happen as a result of that. And you brought up mathematics, algebra. That was a big
Exactly. Yeah.
contribution to the world. Yeah. Okay. Um, okay. And so you gave me three big reasons why.
Mm-hmm.
Um, now, if we, so I like to look at these reasons one by one. And so as far as the Quran goes, if you discovered, and it sounds like you've been doing a lot of research, but um, if you discovered, say tomorrow or next week, 6 months from now, that the Quran, and it's to your satisfaction that the Quran, the prophecies aren't what you thought they were, or the contents aren't what you thought they were, that maybe they're not true or they're different, may point to something else. What would that do to your 210% confidence level?
Yeah, the Quran itself is actually telling us in multiple verses where if 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 a single verse in this Quran contradicts another one, then
Mm-hmm.
this book is absolutely not from God,
Mm,
right?
mm,
And it
okay.
tells us, yeah. And another thing is that the Quran is written in a poetic sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
And why the reason for that is because Islam was, the Prophet was in Mecca, right? And in Mecca
Mm-hmm.
there were a lot of poets, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so what God did, and when He wrote it in such a way, is that it's to show like all these poets that you guys cannot compare. And actually, in one story, what God did is He revealed a little bit, and then He told the Prophet, "Go and put this on the Kaaba," right? And what
Mm,
in the culture around that time was, if that happens, then people come up and continue off where the person left, right?
okay.
And I forgot what exactly the person said, but he was kind of like a well esteemed Meccan poet, and he came up with just some completely stupid, right? It just could not compare it. Then got it finished revealing and just completely blew it out, right?
Okay. Okay. So, so you have given, there was a lot of reasons that you think that support your contention that the Quran is true
Mm-hmm.
and is the word of Allah. I'm just saying that if you found something later
Oh
that
yeah, absolutely,
contradicted that, yeah, so what I'm asking is, how would that lower your confidence at all?
absolutely, yes.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
According to what the Quran said and what the sayings of the Prophet said, absolutely.
Okay.
And
Okay.
if that was to be provided, then the whole religion of Islam would crumble. Yeah.
Okay. I think of it as like your confidence, your 210% confidence, as like a stool that you sit on. And here we have three legs, basically: the Quran, morality, and then the morality of Islam, and then the contributions of Islam. I see
Uh-huh.
those as like three legs holding up this stool. And so, what I'm doing a thought experiment on is, if we were to knock out one of the legs, would the stool stay up? Would it wobble? Would it stay sturdy? Could you still sit on it? And so what it sounds like to me that you're saying is that if we were to knock that stool or that leg Quran out from under your stool of confidence, would your confidence wobble, or would it completely fall over?
Yeah, since the Quran is kind of built around all of that, just of course except the contributions, but the Quran and just Islam, excuse me, is built up on them. Then absolutely,
I understand.
not even my confidence, the confidence of every single Muslim would absolutely topple.
Oh, I see. Okay, so it would. So it sounds like then that this is really a one-legged stool, and it's just a very
Right.
thick leg, and it's holding up your
Yeah, yeah.
confidence. And okay, that makes sense. I see where you're going with that. Okay, and then would you also say then that this also follows the morality of Islam, the morals that you mentioned, and also the contributions of Islam? Would you say that do you think those contributions would have happened without the Quran? Like
No,
uniting the
with the Quran,
tribes, the scholars.
yeah, exactly,
Okay,
yeah.
I see. Okay, I understand now. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to get out. Okay, so this is what I'd like to do. I'd like to focus on the Quran then, because that seems to be like the one reason holding
Yeah,
everything
just
up for you.
because, yeah, you want to talk about it as a stool, excuse me. Think about it like a stool, right? With one leg in the middle,
Hmm.
a super thick leg, right? And then it
Yes,
has some
yes,
other leg
yeah.
kind of protrude. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So if you knock out one of those other legs, it's not going to really matter because you have this one thick one right in the middle that's holding
Exactly, yeah,
everything up. Okay,
exactly.
okay. I think we're on the same page. So yeah, that's exactly how I picture it. Okay, so I'd like to focus on that one, and not that I'm trying to knock it over. I'm not trying to do that at
No,
all.
you're good, you're
What
good.
I'm trying to, I want to unpack this now and then just lay it out on the table and just see what is in it. And just to give you a visual, when I was a kid, I used to take things apart when I was a little
Yeah,
kid.
same.
Clocks, watches, everything. Yeah. My
Yeah,
toys, like my video,
guns.
my video game consoles, I used to just take them all apart because I wanted to see how they work. And I kind of do that with beliefs too. And but when I was little, my father used to say, "You better, if you're going to take it apart, you better know how to put it back together." And
Exactly, yeah.
and I think that's what caused me to be an engineer. I grew up and I studied engineering because you learn how things work and you learn how to build things. So that's kind of how I did. That's kind of how it went for me. So this is kind of along the lines of that when I practice my hobby of street epistemology is we just take it all apart. But see, I don't want to break it to the point where we can't put it back together. That's not my intention.
No, you're good.
So,
You're good.
okay, very good. So that means we're going to have to keep track of all the screws and where all the parts go. Map it all out. So I
No,
don't want to lose
it's
anything.
fine. Think of it as like you can go however much you want to go into it. You can break the parts of the parts of the parts, and I'm just like a recorder. Then you can kind of go back on it.
Yeah.
And exactly,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. That's cool, man. That's cool. Okay, I appreciate that. So okay. So we've discovered if you did find something that disconfirms the Quran as truth, that would pretty much topple it all for you. Now,
Exactly.
would that do it for the religion of Islam, or would that do it for your God belief as well?
It would literally do it for the whole religion of Islam.
Everything. It would take
Exactly.
everything away. Okay. Got it. Now, so the next thing I want to get into, how did you determine that everything in the Quran is true? Like, what methodology did you use?
Yeah, so I talked with people that read books on why the Quran is false. I talked with people
Mm-hmm.
just because I don't actually like reading. So I take from people that did the reading for me, and then I kind of dismantle those arguments, right?
Mm.
Because they get the arguments from videos and books, right? So instead of
Mm-hmm.
me having to do that, and I can have people that have already done that come to me, provide me with the arguments from the books and videos, and I can dismantle those arguments.
I see. Okay, so that was one way. So it sounds like, would you call that apologetics?
Yes, I do a lot of that. I debate
You do a
about
lot
it.
of apologetics.
Yeah,
Got it.
for the past 4 years I've been doing that.
Understood. Okay.
Yeah.
Understood. And so you've been doing a heavy in the apologetics, and then so really going to other people, hearing what their reasons are, and then saying, well, no, these are the actual
Exactly.
reasons.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so kind of dismantling their entire. Okay,
Yeah.
got it. And okay, and okay. Now, how does that relate to the truth of the Quran?
What do you mean by that?
What I mean is, if you're talking with people and you're just dismantling their arguments with your own arguments, how does that make the Quran true?
Well, no. What people come with me is reasons why the Quran is false, right? So it's like, oh, well, this verse contradicts that verse. So, one of the biggest
I
ones,
see.
yeah. One, for example, is like, this verse says you can't. What was it? I think it was you can't be forgiven for associating partners with God, but this verse says you can't be forgiven for associating. Well done. No, this verse is talking about you can't be forgiven after you die because it's made obvious for you that there's only one true God, right? So it's too late. It's like giving you a cheat sheet. You're not going to be graded, right? I already gave you all the answers. But before you get that cheat sheet and get all the answers, you can absolutely be forgiven.
I see. Okay. Well, I'm still not clear how that makes the Quran true. And here, let me kind of give you an analogy, because I like doing this with thought experiments. Let me give you an analogy, and this is how I'm thinking it. So, absolutely correct me where I'm wrong. How I'm thinking about it is, someone comes to me and says, dragons are real. Dragons exist. And I have an invisible dragon right next. Well, no, we won't go that far. They'll just say dragons exist and dragons are real. And I say, well, I don't believe that. And then they give me all their reasons why. For example, they say, well, dragons are in script, holy texts. Dragons are described in holy texts. There's plenty of evidence of dragons. They found bones everywhere that are huge, that are from reptiles. Dragons are reptilian. It's not dinosaurs, it's dragons and all this other stuff. So they just lay out all their reasons, right, Saif? And so then I come back with my own reasons, and let's just say they just overcome all of my reasons, and they do it point by point, right? Does that mean that dragons are real?
No, yeah.
Okay, so you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
So correct me where I'm wrong. Like, how is that different from what you're saying?
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
So, a way to tell the Quran is true, right, is by what the Quran actually says, right?
Okay.
And what does the Quran actually say? It needs to say something, right, that people did not know at the time, right? So, for example, in the Quran, it calls the baby in the mother's stomach the word alaqa, right? Which translates to it has two meanings, right? Which is, like I already said, it ties back to being a poem, right? One meaning is I forgot what the first meaning was. Yeah, but the other meaning was leech, right? And if you compare the baby at the time that the Quran mentioned, because it goes by the process like, like this happens and this covers this and blah 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 blah, right? And if you compare that time to when the Quran says alaqa, the leech and the baby look like basically copy paste, right? And then that, and plus you also have that within the umbilical cord, there is a vein in it that supplies the baby with the blood, right? So it's kind of that like double entendre in a sense, right? And then, like I already said, where it talks about the Pharaoh, it says neither the sky or the earth weeps for you, And then modern day, we can kind of decipher the hieroglyphs. It says, like I already said, when it talks about the Pharaoh dying, the skies and the earth weep for you. Right?
Okay. Okay. So what I'm hearing from you then is you have the Quran shows its truth because it correlates and corresponds to other truths that we have. Does that sound right?
Yes. But the truths that we have today are not the truths that we had, yesterday, for a sense. Right? Yeah, exactly.
Are you saying that the Quran exposed these truths, or kind of pulled the curtain back, and now we're like, so it gave us knowledge that we otherwise did not have?
Yeah. One of my favorites, why I keep going to it, is the one with the hieroglyphs. Yeah. I mean, I think the first time we deciphered the hieroglyphs was like early 18th century, not 18th, 19th century, late, I think 18th century. I could be wrong though. I'm not an Egyptologist. But yeah, and the Quran was made 1400 years ago, in the year like 635.
I got it. Okay, so it lines up with those hieroglyphs that hadn't otherwise been translated.
Exactly.
So when they translated the hieroglyphs, then it contained what was in the Quran.
It doesn't even just line up. It literally quotes them, right? When the hieroglyphs say the skies and earth weeps for you, the Quran says no.
I see.
Neither the sky nor the earth weeps for you. All right.
I see. Okay. Now, in that case, let me think of my question, and I don't want to get into like the nuts and bolts of it because we're focusing on the big leg of the stool, not the little ones. So if I get too deep on the hieroglyphs, then we're focusing on the little legs. So I want to stay on the big one. So that's why I'm trying to think of my question here. Okay, so to you that was like independent verification that the Quran is true, and okay, and what if we found in other holy books, and I know you've read a bunch of them, but what if we found in these other holy books? Because now, am I correct in saying, because you said you study Christianity, you studied Judaism, you studied Hinduism. So does that mean you read the Bible, the Torah, and the Bhagavad Gita? You've read all those? That's interesting. Not all of them? Okay.
Yeah, no. But I've talked with people that have, right? And
Got it. Okay.
And I kind of do what you do exactly, with like, all right, well, why is Hinduism right? And all of these things. And yeah.
Okay. And so it sounds like then that you've already talked with a Hindu who was, absolutely convinced that their religion, their God is true.
Yeah.
And you've asked these questions, and so are you saying so far that you have you convinced anybody that Islam is true?
Literally this month alone, we have 4 reverts.
Okay. And what if there was something, is it possible that you just haven't met somebody in another faith that has presented evidence? Like, no. Let me back that up. Let me back that up. If there was somebody out there, like a neutral observer, and they looked at the evidence for both sides, and they could not come to a conclusion of truth, where would you say they went wrong?
So it's simple, right? In the Quran and in Islam, we don't believe that somebody is going to go to hell for
Mm-hmm.
be subject for eternity in damnation just because they were not experienced or had the message given to them, right? So the people in the same islands that have never ever talked to anybody, they're not going to be put to death. Put in hell forever and ever and ever. Right? No, actually, those people have a really, really good shot of making it to heaven. Right? In the Quran, it tells us we will not punish a nation until we've sent in messengers. Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if somebody's never heard of Islam, never experienced Islam, or the Islam that they heard of is
Mm-hmm.
one that is false. The image of Islam
Mm-hmm.
that is one that is false, and absolutely they're not. God is going to judge them absolutely differently than somebody
Got
that
it.
was revealed to the message, and everything was true, and they had evidence and blah 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 blah. Right, where they literally
Mm-hmm.
just could not deny and still said no.
Mm-hmm.
Right, then that person would be judged differently. Right,
I see.
but
Okay.
no matter what, God has installed in us in our nafs a sense of just basic right and wrong,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, okay, don't kill this person. Help
Don't unalive.
Oh
Don't
my bad.
unalive.
Yeah,
No,
don't
no, it's
unalive
all
this
good.
person. Don't
Yeah.
do all these horrendous acts, but be good basically, right? And yeah,
Okay. So I guess I guess the other place I'm coming from is if because it sounds like would it be correct to say that what helps you determine that the Quran is true is that all the other ones are not true, that
that
the
yeah. So so the process of elimination helps with
mm-hmm,
that, all right?
mm-hmm,
But the actual, like I said, the context of the Quran versus, for example, other holy scriptures is superior, right? So, for
uh-huh,
example, Christians believe that the whole earth was flooded, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And that's just not logical at all, right? There just simply is not
mm-hmm,
enough water for Mount
mm-hmm,
Everest, for 15 cubits over Mount Everest to be full of
mm-hmm,
water. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah. Like
yeah,
you're saying, hey, there's things that don't make sense here, and here's some, that doesn't
exactly.
make sense, and here's why.
But in
Okay.
contrast, in the Quran, we only believe it's regional, right? So only the region of Noah was flooded,
Mm-hmm,
not the whole earth was flooded.
mm-hmm,
And I talk with some Christians, like, no, but if you look at the Hebrew, it could mean like, oh, just that particular area. Okay, then why do the highest of church fathers like Justin Martyr and all of these great fathers that you take from say it was the whole earth, and they provide reasons
mm-hmm,
why it's the whole earth.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Some include from the
Well,
Bible.
okay. I see where you're going with that. I'm still not sure how that shows that Islam is true, though, because um, like because if you've talked to Christians, Hebrews, and Hindus, and you have just refuted all of their points, I mean, is it possible that they just don't have enough points for you to refute? Like, what if how does that demonstrate that Islam is true, though? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, it's not like I said, it's not even just about points. Like when I talk about the flood, it's something that
Mm-hmm.
I've read, right? It's in Genesis 15.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a chapter that I fully read and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Why I go to these Christians and kind of talk to them about it is not to start an argument. It's just more like, can you give me reasons?
Right.
Yeah. So
Right.
what I want them to do is like kind of to prove this scripture true, right? Well,
Mm-hmm.
any Christian can come up to me, right? And inshallah, very soon I'll start my own lives. Yeah, any Christian will be able to join and give you reasons why Islam is false, and I'll be able to
Mm-hmm.
combat them. You know?
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. I do get that part. That hey, you can come at me with reasons why you think Islam is not true, and I'll give you reasons why it is true. I'm just saying,
It's not.
like, kind of going back to my dragon example.
Yeah.
You know, if a person is just giving me reasons why the dragon is real, how do we figure out what they're saying is actually true though?
Yes.
You know, apart from just saying, well, it just refutes everything you're saying. But how do we demonstrate that? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, so we just asked them to demonstrate that their dragon is true, right? So can
Yeah,
your dragon
right.
interact with the table right there? Well, if okay, he does. Okay, then the dragon is true, right? Can he come through the house and the roof breaks? Yes, then the dragon is true.
Mm-hmm.
If he walks through a fence, does it break? Absolutely, then that dragon is true, right?
Okay. Yeah. I hear that.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why when it comes to Islam, I can demonstrate why the Quran and Islam is true, and like I said, those reasons were good enough for 4 Muslim reverts, for 4 now Muslims to revert back to Islam.
Okay. So I heard 2 parts to that. As far as the dragon analogy goes, you would say to that person, well, demonstrate that the dragon is actually here. Have it bust through the roof. Have it burn the car outside, something like that. Demonstrate that it's actually here. Have it. Let's spot it in the sky. Let's go find it in the sky if it's flying around. Now, is there a similar way that you could do that with Islam, like right now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, because like the analogy is the person presents me with manuscripts and documentation and scriptures, books.
Yeah.
That's the written evidence, and says, see, this is all it is. This is the evidence here. This is the proof. But now you went a step further and you said, well, no, you have to actually show me. I want to see it.
Oh,
I want to,
so that's again, you can't see it, but I'm asking, like, I wanted to interact, like, because it's
interact with the world.
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so how do we do that with Allah? How do we? Because wouldn't that be like something measurable and testable? You need to say, well, have that invisible dragon interact with the world, and we can see the results. So how would we do that with Allah?
Yeah, we can't do that with God. God cannot enter creation, right? It just does not make sense for him. When you enter creation, you become part of that creation, right? There's no uncreated there's no uncreated thing inside of creation, right? So yeah, God cannot like come down and talk to you and have a cup of joe, right? But what we can do is,
so he can't interact with this world. Is that what you're saying? God can't interact with this world.
Come into this world.
Cannot come into this world.
Yes. But yeah,
into this world.
Yeah, we cannot, see that. So we'll see. We have to see. Okay, well, what did he send down, right? And that would be the Quran, right? And okay, well, what does we'll start by the most simple thing of, well, how do we know the Quran that we have today is the Quran that was all the way back then, right? Do you think that's like a just thing to say? Like a fair?
Wait, say that part again. I apologize. That kind of flew right past me. Sorry.
Okay. So if God cannot, come down with me and have a cup of joe, well, we have to see what did he send down, right? And that would be the Quran, right? Well, okay, now we have to verify the Quran, right? Okay, just the first step is to verify the Quran that we have today is the Quran that was 1400 years ago, right? And then we go to the preservation, right? The Quran was revealed in 2 things. You have the oral, right, and then you have just the written down, right? The oral, like I used to go to a Quran school, right, and they would teach you the Quran. If you were to even, I promise you can even look it up on memes and stuff. It's so just widely, if you just mispronounce a single vowel, right? Your teacher is gonna stop you and keep correcting you and keep correcting you and until you eventually say it fully right. And yeah, so that way we have a checks of knowing the oral is right, oral transmission is right, and then we also have the written down, right? So you have the caliphs. They kept that. They kept the Quran and just the same way. And the caliphs are not just some random kings, right? They were hafas. They had the Quran memorized. And it's actually one of the requirements of becoming a caliph of an Islamic state. Is you have to actually know Islam, right? It's kind of in the name.
Yeah.
They were not just some laymen. Not only did they have the Quran memorized, but they also were companions of the Prophet, right? They were the same people that went with him in WAR, right? They were they helped him with battles and were right side by side. But what else? And then yeah, they come and they keep the Quran the same as it is right now. That, and then what else? Then we can we've established that the Quran today is the one we had yesterday. All right. Well then, we've established the preservation. Now we have to establish that it's written from God, right? All right then. Well, how do we know it's written from God? Well, we need knowledge that was not accessible at the time, that was mentioned in the Quran, right? And I'm sorry, I keep going back to it, but it's like one of my favorite things of the Egyptian hieroglyphs, right? Neither sky or earth wept for you. I think it's in chapter 55, verse 26. But yeah, what else? Then, like I said, with the word alaqa and the baby in the stomach, and then when it talks about iron being sent down to earth, right? We tossed iron to earth, and all of these things,
Okay, so just kind of going back to what you were saying, just so I'm clear, are you saying then that God can't come into this world, can't alter this world at all?
He can't alter, but he cannot come down.
He can alter.
Yes. So God is all powerful.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Think of it as having you know those little like kids' toys. You click on them and the little arm kind of closes in so you can pick stuff far away. That's exactly how it is, right? I don't have to kind of be in a room to kind of pick up something from that room.
Yeah. Okay, I follow you. All right. So then, in a way, then that's similar to going back to the invisible dragon analogy. You can't see the dragon, but the dragon can alter things in this world, and we can see that and test it and measure it. So shouldn't we be able to do that for Allah as well?
Well, now you're asking for evidence of God?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, because if there's no God, then there's no Islam, right?
Yeah, there's no Islam, no Christianity.
Right. There's no Christianity. There's no, exactly. So it really comes down to the evidence of God. So if God can alter this world, as you said, how come we can't measure that and test it?
All right. Just because we were talking about the unification of all these tribes, Ibn Sina, a scholar, because of that unification of all the tribes, talks about the uncaused cause, right? A non-contingent thing that all contingent things rely on, right? So we are humans are contingent on something, right? We are caused or contingent on something. This goes for everything, right? Eventually, to stop infinite regression and just okay, this caused this and this caused it, blah 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 for infinity. There needs, and we will eventually come back to something that is completely uncaused, right?
Yeah.
Completely uncaused, and yeah, it's kind
Okay.
of yes, this was an argument made by Ibn Sina.
Mm-hmm.
I think you wouldn't you kind of most people know of him. What else? Yeah, that's basically it.
Okay. I guess what I'm getting to, yeah, I hear what you're saying about the uncaused cause. So basically, you're saying, something has to have caused this. It just couldn't have just sprung up out of nowhere,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay, that's what you're saying. Okay, I just want to make sure I got that right.
And in the Quran, it actually kind of describes the Big Bang. Of you would agree with me that in the Big Bang, everything was all together, correct? Was all condensed into
Yeah, I think I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, and yeah, like everything was condensed. That's what the theory says. Yeah, everything was condensed and then expanded. Yeah, just one day it expanded.
From every living thing. Let me just find you the Quran verse. Chapter 21, verse 30. Quran. There we go. Do the disbelievers not realize that the heavens and earth were once one mass?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Then we split them up. So it's kind of like all of these things being together and causing that tension. Then you split it up and they kind of explode. Right? And we created from water every living thing. So yeah. It talks, just because we're talking about the creation of the earth, chapter 21, verse 30 kind of came up to mind.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still not clear though how this relates to how can we, if God can alter this world, how can we measure that?
Well, so right now there's nothing to alter, right? But when it came to the altering, it was just the creation of the universe on earth, right? So God does not kind of in a sense just completely like change every little thing, right? So when it comes to the altering thing, it just he made it, right?
Oh, okay. So you're saying he set things, he created it, set things in motion, and then now is just kind of sitting back, letting things happen.
But he also gave us some kind of like cheat sheets, right? To know what
cheat sheets, and that's the Quran, right?
Yeah, that's the Quran
in a sense.
And all the prophets before.
And all the prophets before. Okay. And that's the cheat sheet. So that's like instructions on how to live and how to navigate this world, basically.
Exactly.
Like a map. Okay. But set things in motion, created the universe, created the world, but doesn't actually do anything else right now. Just kind of sitting back.
Right now, yeah, it's kind of like our turn to, like, in a sense, kind of find God for some people. And for others, it's to continue belief. It's to do what's good and not, for example, not go out and do all horrendous acts. It's to, donate charity. It's to pray. It's to believe in one God and one God alone. It's to do all of these, great things and help people out. In the Quran, it says, in Islam, we believe that if you intend on doing something that's bad, and then you change your mind, God is going to grant you good deeds because of that, right?
What if a person followed all these things you have kind of listed that's contained in the Quran, but just did not believe in God?
Yeah.
So is that possible to do, first of all?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, it's possible.
Because
Yeah, go ahead.
we have God, but what he's done is he installed, just like I said before, he installed kind of like a basic sense of right and wrong, right? Like, no, don't hit your mother or your
Yeah.
father, right? Be good to them, right? Like just stuff like that, right? Don't help people out. If somebody needs money, donate. If somebody needs food, give them your food. Stuff like that, right? So yeah.
Okay. Now, are those things though? If we could find another source for those types of things that you just listed, like we found like an older text somewhere that had laws like that.
Well, yeah.
Is that from Allah, or is like how did those people figure it out?
So literally, just like I said, every soul has every nafs has that written into it. All right. So it would.
I see.
Exactly. Exactly.
So it was kind of intuitive. So
Exactly.
like Allah wrote that in like kind of inscribed that in our souls, so so it was intuitive. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, again, I guess how would we determine then what if that's let me think of a good way to ask this, because what I'm really trying to find out is how we can evaluate and identify, apart from using the Quran, that Allah is real. Because it sounds like your main thing for saying, well, Allah is real because the Quran says it's real, and that there are all these these prophecies, these contents and things like that have shown that that have lined up with the Quran. So that, to me, that says it's real.
Yeah. What's it called? God has not just installed the good sense of morals, all right? He's also installed, kind of that thing of where God is real, all right? Where all of these things. That's why where you even go to like the most isolated tribes, right? You know that basically that they're gonna believe in some sort of God, right? And yeah, just God has not only installed that sense of good, but he's also installed that sense of I created you, right? Of God is real. So,
well, the sense though, well, here's something like I have two children. One's 17, right. One's 13. All right, and when they were little, I would, they would talk about things, and they would say things like, well, if something extraordinary happened, that was extraordinary to them. Say, oh, I don't know, a cat looked like it just appeared out of nowhere in the backyard. Let's just say that. And they'd say, oh, Dad, look at that. That cat it's magic. It just appeared. And they would usually bring up, like, give a reason for it. I'd say, well, how do you think that happened? And I just remember something to the effect, my son said, something to the effect of, well, I think that an invisible man brought that cat in. And so when and I know this is the mind of a child, but I'm just asking, like, where do you think my child got that thought from? Like, is that intuitive?
Yeah. So, in a sense, yeah. Yeah. I mean, let me. Yeah, I wanna. Yeah. I mean, Yeah. I mean, yeah, of course. Uh,
Hmm.
when some things, right, are come to the human and they're like, well, we need a way to explain this, right? But when it comes to Islam, right, we have like very well documented things that just cannot be explained, right? So
Hmm.
a human coming out of a bush can very much be explained, right? So,
Hmm.
for example, in one for one instance, uh, one of the companions invited the Prophet over for a meal, right?
Hmm.
The companion also brought some of his other companions. The Prophet also brought some of his other companions. But
Hmm.
the first companion that invited the Prophet did not was not prepared and did not have enough food for all of them. And when he told this to the Prophet, he was like, "No, it's fine. Just give me the ladle, and I'll pour the food." And he poured the food for every single person. And keep in mind, I think it was made for only two, the prophets and
Hmm.
his
Hmm.
companion. And he kept pouring until every single companion had their meal. And then the original companion reported that when he went and checked up on the food, it looked like like nothing was taken out of it,
Hmm.
right?
Okay. Okay. I think I'm following. I suppose then, okay, because so it sounds like what you're saying is with my child says, well, an invisible man, brought the cat into the backyard. That's how it just appeared out of nowhere. And you're saying, well, there's no anything documented about that. There's so we don't have like a like long, I guess, authoritative source. Um, is if there were things that you found in the Bible that were true, would that make it true?
So when it comes to Islam, we
Mm-hmm.
believe that um, the Bible, the Injil, and the Torah were
Yeah.
once the Word of God, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they were corrupted over time and blah 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 blah.
Mm,
So, but they
okay.
still do contain some of that truth.
They contain some truth. Okay.
Yes.
So okay. How do we know that? Well, because you did say, well, we know that the Quran has retained its integrity as far as words are concerned over time. Like the
Uh-huh.
words haven't changed. Does that sound right? Am I saying that right? Like the wording hasn't changed. It hasn't been retranslated to something different. With Am I saying that right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Okay. I just want to make sure that I'm not mischaracterizing it. So that that shows that it hasn't been what you say corrupted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, got it. And then okay, so um,
I
okay,
didn't
so
know.
is it possible then for something to is it possible for something like a document, for example, just some type of document that's written in originality to contain some truths yet not be true,
What do you mean by that?
but it hasn't been altered? Is that if somebody wrote a manuscript about something, and it's in its original form,
Right.
um, like let's take a hieroglyph. Like they found a hieroglyph in Egypt, hasn't been altered, but there are some truths in the hieroglyph, but then there are some inaccuracies in the hieroglyph. Is the fact that it wasn't altered, does that make it true?
No, because there it has falsehoods within it, right?
Yeah, it does have some falsities in it. Okay, so so what if we found a hieroglyph that isn't that does contain all truths to it, um, and it's in its original form, but we just can't we just can't verify what's contained in the hieroglyph.
Like we can't translate it?
No, we can translate it so we know what the words mean. Let's just say it. How about this? The hieroglyph is in its original form, and it has some prophecies. All right, and those prophecies, some have come to pass, some have not yet come to pass. Would that make it true? Like the entire hieroglyph?
Mm-hmm. Yes, in Islam, we do believe that there are some people that can kind of tell the future, but it's not like actually them, right? It's not, it's not like them actually coming up with all this. So
Okay.
in Islam, we believe in jinns, right? They're literally just like us. They except we are made from mud and they are made from smokeless flame. And
Got it.
us and them have free will. We believe that there are some Muslim jinns and there are some Christian jinns, there are some Jewish jinns, there are some blah 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 jinns, you know what I mean? And yeah.
Okay.
Like that, and how they get this information is by simply just making a contract with a jinn, right? So I personally have researched kind of magic, right, a lot. And it's just it's kind of simple. You just make a contract, and they give you the information. This doesn't go to say like, jinns are all knowing. Absolutely not the only all knowing thing. But how they get it is listening, right? Kind of like listen to what the angels say, right? We believe that there are some things that God has decreed already, right? So it's for example, like me coming in here. This could be thing that God has already decreed. Me meeting a certain person, God could have already decreed that. And all these things. But yeah, and when the angels hear of this, they talk and eventually they'll come up to the ears of jinns, and when the jinns report back to the person they have their thing with, and yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that's about all the questions I have for you, Saif. So I appreciate you coming up. Is there anything you want to ask me? Of course, besides what I believe, just so I can remain neutral. Okay. All right.
Just
how did you like this talk?
It was good. It was nice. It was chill.
Yeah, I thought so too. Yeah, absolutely. And it was really good for me, at least, to be able to just really unpack your belief, like what's behind everything. That was really cool to kind of dig deep there.
Just
okay.
One thing, did I answer your questions good? Is there kind of like another
thing?
Absolutely.
Yeah. You answered them. You answered them really well. So I appreciate that. Yeah, absolutely.
If you haven't gotten like nothing else, you got any more questions? It was really nice to meet you. I like this chat. It was
likewise.
Very nice show.
Yeah. And I'd like you to come back up sometime, because you did say some things about morality, and I thought there were some kind of interesting things, but we were really focusing on the Quran for right now. And I want to give some other folks a chance, but I'd like to talk about that sometime if you come back, after like my next live or something like that. Because I think that'd be interesting to unpack too.
Yeah,
I thought that was cool. Right on, man. Hey, Saif, thanks again, man. That was really cool. It was really chill. I agree, and really enjoyed talking to you.
I enjoyed talking to you too, bro.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Have a good day, and
You too.
we'll talk to you again. All right. Take it easy.